Derek Crespo. Derek Crespo, manager of record.
Good evening.
Good evening. Attorney Days, would you like to start?
Sure. And I wanted to let everybody know I forgot to record the meeting. I just started recording just now. So I'm going to need to be reminded of that, Madam Chairperson, when we start the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So before us today, we have two incidents, namely August 14th, 2021 and August 15th, 2001. With respect to, and Attorney Allen doesn't know this, but with respect to the 17th and the 19th, the city is going to move to dismiss that complaint or withdraw that complaint on the 19th, which was Sunday, September 19th. Okay. And just briefly,
So I didn't want to interrupt. Do we have an officer here waiting for that complaint? Because that was one you were going to go forward. The officer would not have to obviously waste their time if they're not going to be called by me in any event. I have for that incident, I had Officer Gallacher, Gallacher. I don't know if he's was on the Zoom. I don't see the name though, so.
I think, Barry, I think that you had made corrections or clarifications on the names that were used, correct?
That's correct. Nicholas Gallacher's a dispatcher and he is on here. He is available.
Yeah, we are present here. Yeah. Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay.
So with respect to Ms. Richards, Attorney Allen, is she on for the 19th or a different date?
I have the narratives that I was provided, have her on for the incidents of September 17th to 19th. So if Miss Richards is here, I don't want to waste anybody's time. So it's up to, if you're not going forward with it, then they would not have to be sitting on waiting because.
Well, I'm not going forward with the 19th, but the 17th I am. So I don't know if you want.
Oh yeah, so leave the witnesses then. That's fine. Leave them.
Okay. We're here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. So this, in essence, as the commission is familiar with, this is Delicia's restaurant, and it really is very simple. I mean, there is either noise coming from that establishment that neighbors have complained about, namely the incidents before you today are August 14th through into the 15th, as well as the 17th of September. So those are the matters that are before the board today. And I would reserve the right to do a closing at the end. Attorney Allen.
So you're not going to, just so I administratively see, we had 3 things on for final hearing tonight. It's my understanding that you're not going forward with October 2nd and 3rd tonight?
That's correct. As you're aware, I asked for a.
No, I know. I just to keep us, I just want to, so we're doing August 14th to 15th and September 17th.
That's correct. And
okay.
Sergeant Johnson, the reason for the request for a continuance is Sergeant Johnson has COVID. Is unable to appear.
Okay. I mean, just if I could address the chairperson of the board briefly.
Sure.
I just didn't want to speak out of turn. First of all, we have no problem with going forward, but I don't think a decision should be made tonight until all these complaints are before you. You hear all the evidence and not take this in a vacuum. With that being said, there's also a motion that not chairman, but member Signator recuse himself from this matter. If you want to hear from me on that, I will certainly tell you why the motion was brought.
Sure.
So just to be brief, I was provided with some discovery that then Chairman Signator went out into the field with police officers, stayed there for a certain amount of hours, and really undertook an independent investigation on his own, which I would suggest to you that is not the role of a commissioner. It's really for you to hear, kind of be independent, have the evidence come before you, and not be predisposed to certain facts or your view of things where you make yourself a witness. From my point of view, we have a member voting that's been predisposed to do their own independent investigation, which I don't think then that makes the person neutral coming before the board. So it's not me that's made the request. My client has made the request. All due respect, I've appeared before the board before in front of former chairman Signator, but they've read the reports. They may have also spoken to some of the officers on their own, which I have not done. And they feel that he cannot be neutral, in that he's just predisposed with what he believed his beliefs were. At some point during one of the hearings, I know he said he would sign an affidavit himself or something, and kind of was curt about it from point of arguing. But they have a right to have a neutral board who is going to be fair and undisposed. And because he went out in the field with the officers, even though you might hear, well, that particular incident isn't before the board, but as we all know, this has been this ongoing thing with these incidences, the same officers, and I would ask that he not vote on this particular matter for those reasons. And if that's denied, I know it's being recorded. They'll have their appellate rights will be preserved if they choose to pursue them. But in fairness to them, I don't think it's really fair to have a member of the board who went out in the field on his own, made his own opinions and predeterminations now to adjudicate this matter. And again, I don't think we can take this in a vacuum in an isolated incident, as you're going to hear these other complaints are on, but it's just not fair to them. So, and I don't know if you have to vote on that or you talk about it amongst yourselves, but it's certainly not something, we're sandbagging the board with. I filed it the last time we were here. We just didn't reach the matter because of witness issues.
Okay, I believe I will have to talk to Attorney Days and see what she recommends.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, we're also asking that, we start the hearing, but obviously we can't conclude it because of whatever reasons for the witness. I think one of the witnesses has COVID. That we do start it though, and that you not make a decision tonight. But certainly that's within your discretion. But
yeah. So with respect to, well, let me deal with the recusal. I'm going to ask that we take that under advisement. Attorney Allen, I hear your issues. Commissioner Signator, do you have a response to that at all?
I'm waiting for your sage advice, Attorney Days.
Yeah, I think that it's a matter worth considering. We're not the investigatory body. We are, if you are the trier of fact, it should be limited to the information that's been provided by our investigatory body, being the police department. So what I would ask Attorney Allen is that we table it. Your motion is not, and that we hear it at the conclusion of the evidence. Now, with respect to August 14th and 15th and September 17th, I just want you to expound a little bit. Why couldn't that be concluded today? I mean, I understand October 2nd, we've got an issue with the officer not being here, but why would we not be able to determine the outcome of the other two incidents?
I don't think this is something the board should take in a vacuum. I think the board should hear all the evidence. I mean, if you want to hear, I'm not really reserving to do a closing, but based upon at least the two incidences are here, I won't repeat what I said all during the last hearing, but the evidence is insufficient for noise. The reason I have all these officers here is I got narratives attached to these complaints, which they went there on certain occasions, and they didn't hear noise. I know you have a complaining witness here, but it's replete in here that she hasn't even been cooperative. We reached out to her, wasn't interested in trying to talk to me, even if she didn't want to talk to the clients, to see if we could come together to resolve it or come up with some proposal that would be satisfactory for her as a member of the public and maybe satisfy the board. And again, even in this, one of the letters here that's written, August 19th letter that encompass these narratives, it says in the second paragraph, officers didn't observe any loud noise or rowdy behavior. So I agree with you. There appears to be a problem with one particular neighbor. You have her here tonight.
Wait, no. I didn't say there was a problem with one particular neighbor. So don't.
Well,
I don't think that's
you have
accurate.
someone complaining. You have someone complaining that you have here that's going to testify. The
Right.
same person on multiple occasions that's refused to speak to the police. So I think the reason this shouldn't be taken in a vacuum tonight is, one, is the evidence is completely insufficient. And this was grouped with another incident where the officers aren't available. But certainly that's up to the chairman and the board as to what they want to do. But I'm outlining the reasons why I don't think it's appropriate for them to take action tonight if they find that there's sufficient evidence to sustain these. But your own paperwork that was submitted says officers went and didn't observe loud.
Well, that, Attorney Allen, with all due respect, that's the purpose of the hearing, right?
Okay,
So
and
why don't
I
we-
was just
why don't we
answering your question. That's all, as
Okay,
to
all right.
why
Okay.
you think the board shouldn't vote on it tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, the city would call Officer Barry Delamarta. And Madam Chairperson, can you swear him in, or would you like me to swear him in?
Could you please?
Yes. Officer Delamarta, do you swear that all the information that you give and provide in today's hearing be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, I do.
Could you please state your name for the record? Although
Barry.
everybody knows you.
Oh, sorry, Barry Delamarter,
Yep, and how are you employed, sir?
police officer with the city of Springfield,
Okay, and how long have you been a police officer?
27 years.
Okay, and what unit do you serve in now?
I'm currently assigned to the Strategic Impact Unit and specifically assigned to investigate all incidents that happened at licensed establishments in the city.
Okay, and are you familiar with the noise ordinance for the city of Springfield?
I am, ma'am.
Okay, and do you have that with you today?
I do.
Okay, Attorney Allen, try to speed this up as much as possible, but I just want to read into evidence the noise ordinance.
Would you like me to start, ma'am?
Please.
I think it would speak for itself, but if you want to spend the time to have them read it in.
It's relatively short.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the Springfield Board of License Commission rules and regulations under section 2.20 titled Noise states, "No licensee shall abide by the noise control ordinance of the city of Springfield contained in part 2, chapter 259, section 1 of the revised ordinances of the city of Springfield 1986 as amended." That chapter 259, section 1 states that unreasonable noise is any noise plainly audible at a distance of 100 feet. In the case of amplification devices, the words unreasonable noise shall mean any noise plainly audible at a distance of 50 feet.
Okay, does it speak at all about decibels within that, within the ordinance?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so I want to call your attention, and I know your information is going to be limited, but did you have occasion to investigate a report of noise on August 14th, 2021 and August 15th, 2021?
Yes, ma'am. I received an email on August 17th, I believe, either from the licensing department or the mayor's office that had been forwarded to them from a resident on Geraldus Drive about the noise.
Okay, and as a result of receiving that email, what did you do?
I researched the calls for service on both dates. It was Saturday, the 14th and Sunday, the 15th. And I located the calls that were associated. They're referenced in my report, and I also spoke with the calling party as well as another resident on Geraldus Drive. So at that point, I spoke to two of the residents on Geraldus Drive, one of whom she called both evenings. She was there both evenings. The second resident was only there on Sunday, the 15th.
Okay, and who was there on both evenings?
That would be Marie Prouty.
Okay. All right. If I could just have 1 minute. Okay. All right, and are you, did you have occasion to review the license of Delicia's Restaurant?
In regards to this incident,
Yes.
I believe I had already reviewed it because prior to these dates, they had been before the board for an informational hearing on August 11th, stemming from noise complaints prior to, so over the summer leading up to the beginning of August. So the manager of record appeared before the board on August 11th for that hearing.
Okay, and that was an informational hearing, though.
Correct, ma'am.
Okay. And during that hearing of the 11th, I just want to make sure, are you saying that the license was reviewed at that time?
I don't specifically recall if it was reviewed on August 11th. I know that in September, there was an entertainment license hearing, a violation hearing at City Hall, and stemming from the same incident as tonight, August 14th and 15th, and it was reviewed at that meeting.
Okay. And there was a restriction with respect to the patio, is that correct?
Correct. Their entertainment license does not allow any outdoor entertainment, and they also have an 11 p.m. closing restriction on their license.
For the patio, is that correct?
For the patio, correct.
Okay,
Just for the patio.
all right. I have no further questions.
If I might make some inquiry,
Sure.
I'll just making sure. Good evening, officer.
Good evening, sir.
So if I could just start where you just left off, you say that there were restrictions that no one be on the patio at 11 p.m., correct?
Yes, sir.
You're not telling any member of this commission that issue was violated, correct?
Not on these dates, sir, no.
And similarly, no entertainment on the patio, correct? As you
Correct.
said, and you're not telling any member of this commission that you're here today, telling them that that provision was violated, correct?
There was never a violation brought before the board for that matter, sir.
Okay. So what is unreasonable noise? What is that? You read this ordinance, right? Who is to determine what unreasonable noise is?
Well, the way it's worded, sir, is if is plainly audible from a distance of 50 feet in the case of amplified music, it's considered unreasonable. That's the city ordinance.
Has that ever been challenged, the city ordinance?
I wouldn't have that information.
Okay, because actually it used to be a decimal system, correct? And then it was converted over to this unreasonable noise system?
Correct. Again, I don't have the background of when that was done or why, but
Right. Well, we're before the board tonight. We're talking about the ordinance, and you are assigned to investigate these matters, correct?
yes, sir.
So if I'm in my car and you're within 50 feet of my car, my radio's up, you could determine that was unreasonable noise, correct?
Yes, sir.
So would you agree with me that's really subjective as to the person that's claiming it's unreasonable noise?
Subjective, I'm not sure. What I would say is if it's plainly audible and someone's complaining about it, it's technically a violation as it's written now.
Okay.
The License Commission rules and regulations say licensees must abide by the noise ordinance, and that is the noise ordinance.
And I'm just trying to sort out, because you're asking the board to talk about unreasonable, you're talking about unreasonable noise in the letter to the board, correct?
Well, what the violation would be violating the city noise ordinance, correct?
Okay. And then I know I have the officers here, so I'm not going to bore you with that, but you actually attached the response narratives for officers that went out into the field on these days, correct?
I did.
Okay, and some of them, and I'll let the officers testify, but I don't think you disagree with me that ones for 814 and 816 that were attached say no loud music was found when the officers went out, correct?
Well, what I would say is that on the 14th, the officer noted no loud music, just a few people in the rear being loud, management advised. So that officer marked the call advised, and clearly he's here. And on the following day, the 15th.
I would just, if I might interrupt, I would just ask Attorney Allen that if we have the officers present, then.
Sure, but I will do that, but if he could just finish his answer, because if he could just finish his answer.
So on the 15th, the complainant called at 9:37 p.m. The officers that responded marked themselves arrived at 12:05 a.m. on August 16th. That's almost 2.5 hours later, sir. So, and you're correct. They did say they made contact with the calling party and with the manager. They advised them of the complaint, and they did not observe any, I think they wrote loud noise or rowdy behavior. That, and again, they're here and can testify to that, but that was in their narrative, sir.
And the noise ordinance refers to a device that's making noise, correct?
For amplified music, correct.
Okay, so I'll let you go after this, but you say you highlighted for this commission a moment ago, so it can't go unnoticed that they went there and people were being rowdy, allegedly rowdy in the back, correct? 814.
On the 14th, what the narrative says for the complainant reported loud music coming from the above address. That's all it says on the 14th.
Okay, can you look at Edwin Torres's 814? You already told the board a minute ago about going out to the rear and seeing people and advising management. Did you not just testify to that to the board a few minutes ago?
Oh, so what?
No, sir. You did testify to that a few minutes ago, right?
No, what I read what he wrote, which is no loud music, just a few people in the rear being loud, management advised.
That's not amplified music, correct?
That's not.
Okay. I would have nothing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I would have nothing further for this officer on this issue right now.
Okay, if I could just redirect just a couple of questions. On cross, it was stated that the noise ordinance as written could possibly be perceived as subjective. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. More than audible, it being audible, is there any amount of footage that is attached to the ordinance?
No, it just says plainly audible. It's 50 feet for amplified music and 100 feet if it's not amplified.
Okay, so that wouldn't be subjective, right? One would have to be 100 feet away or 50 feet away in order to violate the noise ordinance as it's written. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I have nothing further.
I don't have anything further for this officer.
Okay. Next, I would call Attorney Allen, do you have Officer Torres on your list?
Yeah, do you want me to just, for this violation, do you want me to call the two I have for this one and get rid of them? I mean, just let them go so they're not waiting?
Yeah.
Or?
That would be good.
All right, so as
Um,
officer, I didn't mean to interrupt you. If he's here, I don't know if he has to be sworn in,
yes.
or she, Edwin, so it would be him.
Yeah. Officer Torres, do you swear that the testimony that you give during this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Good evening, Officer Torres.
Good evening.
Um, I don't see Officer Torres. Is he on a phone or?
Yeah, he's there.
Okay. Officer Torres, have you had any conversations with anybody about why you were summoned here tonight?
Yes.
Who would you have those conversations with?
Uh, Detective Marte.
Okay. And was there any discussion as to what you would testify to tonight?
I couldn't recall why I was being summoned to this hearing, and he refreshed my memory.
Okay. Were you able to look at a call log? Did anybody refresh your memory with a call log that indicated on
I
8/4? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I have not looked at it. No.
Okay. Do you recall going to the establishment on 8/14/2021?
I do.
Okay. And do you recall, so if there's a narrative, I know you probably can't see this. It's called, it's a narrative that was provided to me. And I don't know, do you, it says modified by Edwin Torres. So can you just tell the board a little bit about how, if you go to a call, how it ends up getting reduced to writing if it doesn't end in an arrest or some big event?
I would type the comments into the narrative myself. If I verbally tell dispatch, then it's going to say the dispatch name and the comments that I provided to the dispatch. In this case, I myself put the comments into the call.
Okay. So when it says narrative, 8/14 Torres, Edwin, and modified by Edwin Torres, would that mean you wrote this yourself at the time?
Yes, yes, sir.
Oh. Do you recall going to the establishment on that night?
I do.
I'm sorry, due to some complaint of noise?
Correct. I'm sorry.
That's all right. And then you had noted in here there was no loud music. Was that part accurate? And it's not a complete thing of what you noted. I just wanted to break it down for a minute.
That is accurate. Yes.
Okay. You say that just a few people in the rear being loud, management advised.
Correct.
Was the management cooperative with you?
Yes.
And were they, well, how long have you been a police officer?
Oh, I've been for 13 years now.
Okay, so it'd be fair to say after interacting with establishments and citizens and all kinds of people for 13 years, you have a good assessment of when someone's cooperative or not being cooperative with you?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And would it be fair to say to this commission that the management you spoke to was cooperative?
Yes.
Were they receptive to you?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see them do anything resulting from these people on the deck?
What do you mean by that? I'm sorry.
Do you know, did they have the people come back in the establishment?
Into the establishment?
Yeah, if you remember.
No.
Okay. And how long do you think you were there when you were there?
5-10 minutes.
Okay. And were you hearing any amplified music when you were there, officer?
No.
Okay. I think that's all I would have for this officer, Alicia. I mean, Attorney Days, because it's the only narrative I have for him.
Okay, I don't have any questions for Officer Torres.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, officer.
You're welcome.
And then with respect to this set, Attorney Days, I have Roel Tucker. I believe it says the narrative says officer, so I don't know if they're dispatcher or an officer. Mr. Tucker, how are you?
Good evening. I'm doing fine.
Okay. Does he need to be sworn in? I'm just make sure we're following your procedures.
Yes, Mr. Tucker, you know what? All witnesses, why don't
Oh, yeah.
why don't we have all witnesses just raise their right hands? Okay, do you swear that the testimony that you give today will be the whole truth, nothing but the truth, but so help you God?
I do.
Do.
That for everybody?
I do. I do.
I do.
Okay.
Good evening, Officer Tucker.
Good evening. Sorry, doing.
Officer, prior to getting summoned here, did anybody talk to you about why you were coming?
But I spoke to Detective the mentor about the summons briefly. Yep.
Okay. Did you talk to anybody about your testimony prior to coming before the commission tonight?
No.
Okay. Did you have an occasion to review a narrative from 8/16 of 2021? That
I did
was
not.
okay. Similarly, did you hear the last Officer Torres testify as to how a narrative is generated at the police department if there's not an arrest or a significant event that results in a full police report?
I did.
Okay. So I have a narrative that was provided by the city that indicates Tucker Roel, if I'm pronouncing your first name the right way, that it indicated that you wrote officers made contact with a calling party, officers made contact with the manager of Delicias and advised him of the noise complaint. Officers did not observe any loud noise or rowdy behavior. In August of 2021, do you recall going to the establishment?
I did.
Okay. And is what I just read to you an accurate reflection of what you might recall you observed when you got to the establishment?
Well, if my mind served me correct, yes.
Okay. Do you recall the contact you had with the management at this establishment?
Somewhat, sort of. Yeah, I did.
Okay. And how would you describe them, their demeanor towards you?
Um, they cooperate. Pretty much.
Okay. And how long do you think you were on the scene, officer? I know it's hard to, it was just this past August, but.
Well, time frame I can't really recall how long I was there.
Okay. But you did make a note, you did feel it was significant enough to make a notation that you didn't observe any loud music or rowdy behavior. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. While I was there, I did not observe any of that.
Okay. And did you have an occasion to talk to anybody that was complaining about loud music that day?
Yes, I met with a calling party prior going to Delicioso's restaurant to meet up with the manager about the complaint.
And did you go to the person's house?
Yes, we went to the address and I think we made contact with the calling party.
And when you were at the calling party's residence, did you hear any noise coming from the establishment?
Well, at the time I was there, I did not observe any loud noise coming from the establishment.
And with respect to this incident, did anybody show you any recording or anything where they said they were hearing loud music?
I cannot recall.
Okay. I wouldn't have anything further for this officer.
Okay, Officer Tucker, how long were you there that night?
Like I mentioned, I can't recall the time frame I was there.
Okay, let's guesstimate, was it 2 hours?
No, it wasn't that long, but it was a little time. I can't really recall it. I can't give you a specific time, but it wasn't 2 hours though.
Okay, was it 1 hour?
I can't really recall it, to be honest with you.
Okay, all right, I have nothing further, Graham.
I don't have anything further, officer, unless you want to stay,
Oh,
or
I'm
the
sorry.
city tells, or they
I'm
tell you to
sorry.
stay. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Attorney Allen. Let me go back to Officer Tucker. Officer Tucker, and I'm referring to the narrative that, or the call log from August 15th on that Sunday. And are you familiar with call logs at all, Officer Tucker?
Yes,
Okay, so it would record the time that you were actually dispatched, correct?
correct,
The time that you arrived
correct,
and the time that it was cleared. Is that
correct,
correct?
correct.
Okay, so, and that will be admitted into evidence. So would it surprise you if the call that you arrived, it looks like I would imagine, and I'm gonna have our dispatchers explain this to me. But it looks like you arrived at 12:05 and 20 seconds, and then it was cleared at 12:10, 35 seconds. So that would be, if that's accurate, that would be about 5 minutes that you were there?
If that's what you're seeing on your side, it could have been that we arrived in scene and did not click that arrived button on the system within the cruiser. But I do work the midnight shift though, so I
Okay.
don't remember when that call came on at all. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I have nothing further for you.
Just to follow up with those last questions, Officer Tucker, you went to the complaining person's residence, correct?
Correct.
And you spoke to them, correct?
Correct.
Then did you have to drive in your car to go to the establishment?
We did.
Okay. And do you believe that took you more than 5 minutes as with respect to the amount of time you might have been on the scene?
Yeah.
And when it says that you write a narrative, is it fair to say, if you know what I mean, it's not done in real time? You don't go to a computer when you leave the call and then dictate it, type it in as it's happening?
No, everything is done after the fact.
Okay. All right. I had nothing further.
Okay, I have nothing further.
With respect to this violation, the other officer I have noticed, due to the narratives that were provided to me supporting this, was Desmond, is it Aguilar?
Now, Attorney Al, I just want to be clear. I had Torres and you had Torres, but I want to put Miss Prouty on as well.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to just have some of the officers go relative to those.
All right, that's fine. Yeah,
but I'll do it however you want.
No, that's fine.
So is Officer Aguilar on the screen somewhere?
Yes,
Or
I'm here.
here? All right.
Yeah,
Good evening, sir.
How we doing?
Good. Are you actually? What is your role at the Springfield Police Department?
I'm a patrolman.
Okay. All right. Before coming here tonight, did you have an occasion to talk to anybody about why you were coming, officer?
Yes, I spoke to Detective Dunmarder.
Okay. And did you discuss your testimony at all before coming?
No.
Okay. Did you have an occasion to look at a call log by any chance that had your name on it?
No.
Okay. In August of 2021, on August 20th, do you recall going to this establishment for a complaint of noise?
Yes.
Okay. So on the narrative that I have, officer, and forgive me because you don't have it, we just don't have capacity where we can share your narratives. It says, first of all, one date, and I don't know if this is because you're almost at midnight. So
If I might
18
just interject,
18
Attorney
Sorry,
Allen,
1848 officer to you in military time? What time is that?
1848. Would that be 18? Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. So,
I'm sorry, Attorney Allen, what are you referencing? I just want to make sure I'm keeping up with you.
Sure. There's a narrative that I got in the packet. It's 8:19. It's a Thursday night, 8:19. It starts on 10:19. He makes two narratives. One on 8:19 and one on 8:20. But if you look at the arrive time right here, it looks like that's military time, 1848.
Okay, but these incidents are for the 14th and 15th,
Correct.
right? Okay,
But this is right. This is the evidence that was submitted to the board with this notice of violation. So, officer,
Okay.
sure, go ahead.
so the
Do you
relevance of
recall?
the 19th,
I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to understand, the relevance of the 19th is what?
So the relevance is this is what I was given for lack of a better phrase, as the evidence that supports. I was given a packet. We covered this the last time.
Yeah,
With these narratives
correct.
that say we printed out these narratives. Here's the violations, and here's what we believe supports the violation. So, because that's what the charge was, obviously, I have the officer here to talk about what was provided to me as the evidence that supports the stated violations. It's obviously not something I created. It's what you guys gave me. So
Yeah, I don't dispute the fact that we gave it to you, but I don't believe a report was written for the 19th, and a violation is not before the board for the 19th. That's what I'm trying to point out.
So similarly, then, I wish someone had told me this, because we spent money on issuing subpoenas because you wouldn't accept them, which was really just nonsense. But so similarly
Told you what? That was the 19th instead of the 14th or the 15th?
No, I was given a packet.
Yeah.
With a notice of violation,
Yeah.
and attached to it was these narratives saying this is what supports the violation for the 14th and the 15th, in addition to the first officer that said he summarized the call logs. So this isn't something I created, but I got to tell you, my clients had to pay to bring these officers here. So it's something that someone should have told us prior to this hearing. So
does that particular narrative have the 19th or the 14th or the 15th?
This narrative has he arrives on 8:19.
Okay.
The caller refuses to speak to him, and then on 8:20, the reason I was asking him about the time difference, if it was like around midnight to the next day, he didn't hear any music. The patio had been closed since 9. He went on the patio to confirm there was no music and there was no noise heard from outside. So that's the reason I'm calling him.
Okay.
So could I continue with him?
Yeah, you can continue. The only thing I wanted to point out is that the violations before the board aren't on the 19th. I don't think anything. Yeah.
Well, because the first officer you put before the board summarized the incident reports and attached them, I think it is relevant for the board to consider.
Okay.
So, officer, I'll be brief because I think you just heard us argue about what was in your narrative. Do you recall trying to speak to the complaining party?
Well, we if I'm not mistaken, it came out as the complaint didn't wish to speak. So if the complaint doesn't wish to speak, we don't attempt to speak with the complainant.
Okay. And then is it accurate that you stayed on scene, that you went to the back of the patio and confirmed there was no loud music, amplified music?
Yes. When we first arrived, we spoke to the manager, and we didn't hear any music from the outside. And then he invited us in and also stated, we said, is anybody on the patio? He said no, and we asked if we can go to the patio to confirm that you couldn't hear it from the patio as well.
Okay. And are you familiar with the city's noise ordinance? I don't know if you've had the benefit of hearing the testimony.
Yeah, I
all
was
of
able
this.
to hear. I was able to hear it
Okay.
off.
All right. All right. And you didn't hear any amplified music, correct?
No, inside of it, yes. They had a few people still around the bar area just hanging out. But other than that, you could not hear from the outside, from the front or the patio.
Okay. And then lastly, officer, could you explain to describe for the commissioners the demeanor of the manager or the owner with you?
He was good. He was pretty cool with us. He had no problems with speaking to us and explaining to us he had no problem listening to us, explaining to him why we were there. It was pretty cool.
Did you find them respectful towards you?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
All right. So I wouldn't have anything further for this officer.
I have nothing for Officer Dwyer.
Then the last officer I have with respect to what was provided to me in the packet is Sebastian Lopez.
I'm here.
Good evening, officer.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Prior to being summoned here, did you talk to anybody about why you were being summoned?
Yes, Detective Del Marter.
All right. And did you discuss your testimony with him?
No, I do not.
Okay. Did you have an occasion prior to right now to look at any call log that you might have wrote a narrative on?
No,
Okay. And on August 20th of 2021, do you recall going to this establishment?
I don't recall.
Okay. So similarly, I have a narrative that was provided to me, and it says 8/20/21. It says 2249. Is that your badge number?
No, 2249. No, that's not.
Okay. Then it says Lopez Sebastian.
Yes, that's my name. Yes.
It says officer sat in the parking lot of the restaurant. There was no loud music playing that could be heard. Do you recall in August of 2021 going to this establishment and sitting in your car for a period of time?
Yes, my partner and I sat out front. We could not hear anything, so there was no need for us to go inside to talk to anyone about it.
Okay, and can you tell the commissioners, the commission, how long you think you sat outside?
No more than 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. And you made the narrative that there was no noise, correct?
Yes, correct.
Thank you, officer. I don't have anything further for this officer.
Just have a couple of questions. Officer Lopez, did you go to the back of the establishment or did you go to the parking lot?
I think we went to the parking lot first, and then we also drove around the back.
And you drove in which direction? Which street did you go down?
Boston Road, and then we went down the street on the other side. I can't recall the name, but the circle. I know it ends. Chairless Circle.
Okay.
And just to see if the noise is amplifying from the back, we still couldn't hear anything.
Okay. And that was on August 20th, not on the 14th or 15th. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you, officer. You can go. And then the last officer, with respect to the packet I was given for these is Spencer O'Quinn.
Yep, go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
How you doing?
Good. So I bet you've heard all my same questions, right, to the other people?
Yeah, for the most
All right. Have you talked to anybody about prior to coming tonight here?
part. Negative.
Okay. Did you have an occasion to look at what's been referenced as a call log that you might have narrated at some point?
No,
Okay. Are you familiar with the establishment that we're here for tonight?
correct.
Okay. I have a narrative that was provided to me attached to a letter written to this commission that in 8/21 there was a call about a person was complaining about noise. And she was told if she was able to hear it from her house to call the police and you would come check it. It says that person was Nicholas Gallagher or Galacher. Do you recall going to the establishment in August of 2021?
I've been there a couple of times. I'm not sure of the date I went there, but I've been there a few times.
Okay. The narrative inputs that there was no loud noises at this time from the front or the rear. And it says Spencer O'Quinn. Would that be your narrative? Do you
That would
remember
be
going? Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. Do you remember going to the front and the rear of the establishment?
That's correct.
Did you hear any amplified music on these occasions?
On that day, no.
Okay. And then on 821, there's like a double sentence. There's two notations. It says under the first one, it says unable to locate. Do you know what that
When you
you
say
meant by
unable
that?
to locate, it's unable to locate the noise. I'm
Okay.
unable to locate the noise.
And then it says actually the top part before your first two narratives, comp, and I mean means complete. Says COMP did not want
Yeah.
to speak to PD. So do you recall trying to speak to the person that complained?
Correct.
All right. And then when you got dispatched out, they refused to speak to you?
Oh, they just didn't answer the door. It's one or the other.
Okay. Do you recall having any interactions with the management of the establishment on this particular occasion?
Did it say that I went inside or did I make contact with them? I'm not sure.
Okay. Are you familiar with who they are, the managers are there?
Yeah, I've been there a few times, but on this certain day you're talking about, did it say that I went inside or?
No, it does not say that. I was just wondering if you would know from recall. No, it does not say you went inside or spoke to them. I was just wondering.
Okay.
Oh.
Yes.
And when you have interacted with them, could you tell the commission what their demeanor has been like towards you?
Oh, they've been cooperative. No issues out of these guys.
Okay.
I've had no incidents with them.
And do you find that they've been receptive and respectful to you when you've been there?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
I wouldn't have anything further for this officer.
I don't have anything further. Thank you, Officer O'Quinn.
You're welcome, man.
Anyone else? Attorney Allen, before I call Ms. Prouty?
Could I just have 1 second?
Sure.
We're not doing the October.
No.
Yeah, I'm just going through the narratives here to
Oh,
make sure I don't
okay.
have. All right, we haven't gotten to the September one, so I don't have any other officers here for this notice violation.
Okay. All right. I will call Marie Prouty to the stand. Well, kind of to the stand. Hi, how are you, Mrs. Prouty?
Good, how are you?
Good. Could you state your name for the record and your address, please?
It's Marie Prouty, and I live at 148 Geraldus Drive in Springfield.
Okay. And how long have you resided there, Mrs. Prouty?
54 years.
Okay. And are you familiar with Delicia's restaurant?
Yes.
Okay. And where are they located in relation to where you live?
They are about 200 feet to the left of my driveway.
Okay. And I want to call your attention to August 14th and August 15th. Did you make contact with the police department during that weekend?
Yes.
Okay. And why did you do that?
The music was audible from in my house.
Okay. And can you further describe what you mean by audible?
You can literally hear the music with the television on, and the air conditioner. You can also feel the bass from the music actually vibrate the furniture you're sitting in.
Okay. And as a result of that, you called the police. Do you recall what time you called the police at all? I know it's been a long time.
No, I honestly don't recall.
Okay. And did officers arrive?
I believe on one day that I actually spoke to them, yes, and I'm not sure about the other day.
Okay, so that would be, so we're talking about the dates of the 14th and the 15th.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And you said one of those days you talked to them.
I believe I did, yes.
Okay. And did they come to your home?
Yes.
Okay. And what was reported then? Was the noise still audible at that time?
No, it was not.
Okay. And what, if anything, happened next?
Every time an officer shows up, I just ask them to please go and ask them to turn it down. I don't know if that actually gets done or not once they leave my home.
Okay. Did you have occasion on the 14th or 15th? Did the music get turned down after speaking with the police?
Not that I recall.
Okay. So it stayed audible.
Yes.
Okay. Were there any points during the night that it was not audible?
At certain points that it will go down, but then it comes right back up again.
Okay, and when you say it goes down and comes back up, how much time transpires between the time it goes down to the time it comes back up?
Anytime from 10 minutes to half an hour, 40 minutes. There's no specific timetable, like it starts and it stops at this time or that.
Okay, and how has that affected you? The noise or the music coming from the establishment?
Lack of sleep.
Okay.
Stressed out. A lot of times I'll tell the dispatch when I call that I don't want to speak to the officers because I need to try to get some sleep. And I know it's late and I don't know if they're going to show up in 10 minutes or 2 hours. So sometimes I do tell them I don't need to speak to them. Just please ask them to turn it down.
Okay. And do you believe that that's what happened on the evening of the 14th and the 15th?
Objection. You're asking her to
sure.
call, you're asking her to speculate as to something she doesn't have personal knowledge of.
Okay, objection noted. You can answer the question though.
Well, that would be up for the commission to rule on the objection, but go ahead, just for the record.
Mr.
I'm sorry,
Crowley?
what was the question?
I have forgotten the question as well. There's been so many questions, right? Okay, let me go back to the evening of the 15th. It appears then that a call was initiated at about 9:37, a call for service. Do you recall calling the police department on that evening?
Not off the top of my head, no. I'd have to look at notes of which I hadn't been taking at the time.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question based on what you said in direct. Have there been times when you've called the police and it's been several hours or a couple of hours until they show up?
Yes.
So what times are you referring to? As you've noted, what's before the commission tonight is August 14th and 15th.
That's correct, and that would be
right,
on
so
the
you're-
15th at
so that's not what
9:37.
Not what you asked her though.
Well, I asked her based on what she had said previous, that there are times when that has happened. She did state that she didn't recall on the 14th or the 15th. Okay. If I could have 1 minute. Okay, now with respect to where your house is, you said it's about 200 feet away from the establishment, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and can you just describe for us where your house sits versus the front of the establishment versus the back of it?
I live behind it, and I am the second house from the cul-de-sac behind the building.
Okay, and if you could, if you know, can you estimate how far away you are?
From the building?
Yes.
My driveway is about 200 feet, and there's maybe another 10 feet, 15 feet from the driveway to the house.
Okay, all right. I have nothing further.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
I just have a few questions. So are you telling the commission you're dissatisfied with the police when they respond?
No, not always.
Okay. Now they went to your house when you say the couch was vibrating, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and you've heard them testify, correct, tonight? Some of them, when they got to your house, they didn't hear any music, loud music?
yes, I heard that.
Okay. Did you make any recordings of what you're claiming you heard on August 14th or 15th?
I have some really bad recordings that I had taken on my phone, but not from those days, no.
Okay. And you were asked to meet with a representative of the establishment to see if this could be worked out, or to just to talk to you about your complaints, correct?
No.
Okay, so if I tell you the city represented to me today that you refuse to speak to the establishment's representative, would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay, so you are here complaining though before the commission, and you agree that you're refusing to even meet with the establishment to see if your concerns could be addressed or worked out, these complaints that you're making.
Outside of these proceedings, yes.
Okay. And you claim that sometimes you call and you say, don't have the police come to your house?
Correct.
Okay. It's fair to say that you never wanted the restaurant near your house, correct?
That is not correct.
Okay. But you won't meet with anybody to see if we can come to a resolution, right?
8 months ago, I would have.
Okay. And when you say your couch is vibrating, does it lift off the floor?
No. It's
Okay,
a vibration from the base.
I don't have anything further for this witness.
Okay, Ms. Prouty, as Attorney Allen stated, you were asked whether or not you wanted to discuss the case with him, or to discuss the case with Delicia's as well as Attorney Allen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, you know that you weren't under any obligation to speak to them, were you?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. I
So,
will ask.
Along that lines, I have some follow-up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did someone inform you that you had no obligation to try and speak with the establishment when they reached out to you?
No, they did not.
No, I don't have anything else for this witness.
Okay, just for clarification purposes, who is Springfield? And I don't know the rest of it, as well as an unnamed Zoom user.
I don't know.
Could you identify yourself?
Excuse me, I would like to add something, if that's
So,
okay.
Derek, could you
Wait
just
one
wait a
second.
minute? Yeah, just we'll hold on. It's this one you're making inquiry of, I think.
I'm sorry.
It said Springfield on the screen. I don't know if that's who you were making the inquiry of.
Yeah, as well as the Zoom user that's unnamed. Could you identify yourself, please?
I'm part of the Delicious team.
Okay. All right, and the Zoom user?
Excuse me?
No, there's another person, a Zoom user. I don't know who that is.
If I'm not mistaken, and I think that's one of the licensees from the previous hearings that you had before us. I think they forgot to log off.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry, Attorney Allen.
It was the girl, the blonde one, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember her with the name.
Okay, I don't know who that is.
I didn't have anything further for the witness, if that's what you had asked on this.
Okay. And I don't have anything further.
On what you've gone forward with, I don't have anything further. The other things you're not going forward with tonight. right?
I do have something to add, if that's okay.
Derek, if you could just wait a second, I don't mean to be disrespectful, I'm just trying to make sure the record's clear.
I understand.
All right.
Well, what is the board pleasure? We went over the August 14th and 15th dates, but we haven't visited the September 17th date. So what's your pleasure in terms of how we proceed?
Can we, I mean, I don't know, but can we go ahead and hear them all? And then make a decision from there? Just my suggestion.
We should, I'm thinking probably the cleanest way to do it is to rest on the 14th and the 15th, and then move over to the 17th. Attorney Allen, what do you think?
So does the board want to hear argument as to this violation? I'm just trying to sort out, not sure if the board's going to hear argument and take it under advisement. So I just was just kind of deferring to figure out what we were doing. And do we have the officers here for the 17th and 19th?
Yeah, well, the 19th, again, it's going to be withdrawn, right? We're only going forward on the 17th, and Officer Whitaker is present.
Whitaker, jálalo.
Hold on. So,
I'm sorry?
so could you mute, please? That's one of the other clients.
Okay.
So I have a 917 Officer Galacher subpoenaed. I may not be pronouncing it right.
He's actually a dispatcher.
Okay, so I believe they showed up in a dispatch screen at some point.
Yeah, say hello. Hello, I'm here. Dispatcher,
Okay.
Nicola Gallagher.
So yeah, we have a feedback. So I would be, if the board says to go forward with that 917, we would be ready to do that. But however you want to proceed, I'm not sure how the board wants to proceed.
So, Madam Chairperson, your suggestion was that we proceed with the 17th before deciding this one?
That was my suggestion, but you did mention just to make it cleaner that perhaps we can just, listen to one of them at a time. So it's okay with me. I don't know about the other commissioners, how they feel.
Generally, we hear one violation report and make a decision and then move on to the next. I agree with Alicia.
Okay, I agree as well.
I agree too.
Yep, not a problem.
Okay. All right. So, Attorney Allen, you want to be heard on the 14th and 15th?
Well, sure, but if a decision's going to be made, I want to be heard on my motion with respect to the voting of the commissioners. Unless you're not going to vote tonight, which I'm fine with. I'm fine. I wasn't trying to put you in a public session with that. If you need to talk about it, I understand. I'm just trying to preserve their rights. And
yeah, no, understood. I'm sorry, I forgot about the motion to recuse. Okay, so why don't we take, so we've heard the evidence with respect to the 14th and the 15th. I agree, Attorney Allen, and forgive me, I forgot about the motion to recuse, but until we make a decision on that, my suggestion would be is that we continue with the additional evidence. Just be mindful that it's the 14th and 15th that we had our first set of witnesses on, right? And we're going to move on to September 17th. That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay. So on to September 17th. And once again, I just for the record, the alleged violation of September 19th is being withdrawn. So we're not going to, you won't hear testimony with respect to that one. So the 17th, I would call Officer Whitaker.
Come on.
Good evening, Officer Whitaker.
Good evening.
Could you please state your name and your full name for the record?
I am Officer Zargami Whitaker with the Springfield Police Department.
And how long have you been employed by the police department, Officer Whitaker?
6 years.
Okay. And did you want to call your attention to September 17th, 2021? Do you recollect going or being dispatched to Delicia's restaurant?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And upon arrival on the 17th, what, if anything, did you observe?
I did not observe any music being played. So I contacted dispatch and asked them if the caller was still hearing music so that I can try to investigate and find where it was coming from.
Okay. And did you determine where the noise was coming from?
The calling party stated that there was no more music playing, but she was hearing people yelling and screaming on top of the patio.
Okay. And did you proceed to the patio?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you observe?
When I entered the patio, I observed two females looking over what appeared to be blueprints. I don't know if it was plans to do something to the patio. I asked them if they had a manager on scene or if they were one of them. They said they'll go get them. While I waited for them, I observed about 4 tables of people looking like they were eating dinner. No loud screaming or anything, just hanging out, eating dinner, talking.
Okay. And what time was that?
That was at about 11:10.
Okay. And were you familiar that did you know at that time that the establishment has a restriction of the patio being closed at 11?
I did not.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Good evening, officer.
Good evening.
So I just want to ask you about loud noise, because that's what the complaint is before the commissioners, just to keep you focused. You had indicated you received a call on a loud noise, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it says that you went there and you did not hear any amplified music, correct?
Yes.
All right. You said you saw people eating dinner.
I did.
Okay. Did you observe anybody screaming or pounding, making pounding noises? Okay. And then you did interact with the management of the establishment?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Could you explain to the commission what the demeanor of the management of the establishment was towards you?
He was very respectful, came up to me, shook my hand. I told him what the complaint was. I told him I didn't hear any music, but if he just make sure that people kept the volume down from their talking, and to have a good night.
Okay. And were there any other issues with you on that night with noise that you recall?
That was my last call of the night. After that, I went to the station.
Okay. I don't have anything further for this officer.
I don't have anything further for Officer Whitaker.
Folks, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
I just have one other witness here that was identified in the packet, just for the commissioner's point of view. It's Nicholas Gallagher.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could just have him call him wherever he might be. He did.
Yes, I'm here.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, I learned that you're in dispatch, but not technically a patrolman.
Correct.
Okay, and did you have any conversations with anybody as to why you were being summoned to this hearing tonight?
Just my supervisor.
Okay, who was that?
I have multiple supervisors. The one on the floor today was Alfredo Wilson.
Okay, and did you have an occasion to look at what's been called a call log that might have your name on it from 9/17 of 21?
Yes, I have one right here with us.
Okay. Nicholas, when it says narrative, did you input the narrative on the form that's in front of you?
Yes, where my name is present.
Okay. And you wrote, I think it says G2, walk to the patio, no music playing, people having dinner and talking, nothing going on here. Can you tell the commission where that information came from?
So G2 is a sector and Gulf 2 is the officer who is working in Gulf 2 sector. And that information came directly from the cop officer, and we're directed to type the words exactly how they say it to us.
Okay. So you didn't make any observations yourself. Part of your job is if an officer calls dispatch, you log in what they tell you. Is that accurate?
Correct. We have no observations as we sit in office behind a computer.
Okay. And then, Nicholas, if you could look up to the top of that part, before that starts, it says, let's see. It says comp does not want to speak. Did you type that into the narrative?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And can you tell the commission what that means?
That means the person who initially called in the call did not wish to speak to police.
Okay. All right. And you just documented what the officers on scene told you pursuant to the Springfield Police Department's policy?
Yes, Gulf 2 at 11:20 p.m. Walk to the patio, no music playing, people having dinner and talking, nothing going on here.
Okay. I wouldn't have anything further for this witness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Dispatcher Gallagher, also there are additional there's additional information that's inputted on this narrative. Is that correct?
In what instance?
So it appears that and I'm sorry, with the military time, 2257, there was a call. It looks like you accepted it. Loud music coming from this restaurant and very loud bass shaking Comp's house.
Yes.
You see that? Okay, so that was before the entry of the 2320 hours, right? Walking patio, no music playing. So that, as a result of receiving the loud music coming from the restaurant, what is your job at that time?
Could you repeat that?
So when you get a complaint or when someone calls, what is your response to that complaint?
To put it up as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Okay, and put it up for who to see?
For my radio personnel to put that out and give it to the correct officer.
Okay, all right. So at the time that you're inputting the information, the 2257, is that real time?
Yes.
Okay. And at the point that who is Tafari Douglas? Do you know who that is?
That is another coworker of mine.
Okay, all right. So you didn't put that in.
Right.
Okay, so 2320 is when the officer reports back to you what they've seen. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so that's about what, 22 minutes, 23 minutes?
About 23 minutes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
I don't have anything.
Okay. We have Angela Richards.
Yes, ma'am.
Attorney Allen, did you want to?
So can I just, Angela Richards was relative to the 919, which I believe you're you're withdrawing.
Okay.
Let me just so I don't have anything further for her. Just given the hour that we're at, and there's no violation for 919.
Okay. Any additional witnesses on your behalf?
Not not relative to the what's been provided. I would like the commission to hear from Derek Crespo briefly. That's allowable, but I'm just going to proceed in the manner, we'll defer to you as to how you want to proceed.
He could be called as a witness.
Okay. Mr. Crespo, can you hear me?
Yes, Engineer.
Okay.
First of all, good night. How you guys doing today?
So, Mr. Crespo, this is a little bit more formal tonight because it's a full hearing. So if I could just ask you some brief questions.
Sure.
I'll try and give you an opportunity to say what you want to say at the end if the commission allows it, okay? All right, you've had the benefit of, what is your duties and responsibilities at the establishment?
I am the manager on record. I supervise ongoing daily operations. I'm also very I pay very close attention to how the restaurant's working and how we can provide something to the community and not take, if you know what I mean.
On August 14th and 15th, were you present at the establishment, if you recall?
Yes, I was present on August. On that weekend, I was actually present. Yes, for both days.
Do you remember interacting with any of the officers that testified tonight, if you were able to see them?
No, my assistant manager was the one who actually welcomed them, because I was actually, as I'm currently now, I was in a class because I'm finishing my second bachelor's, and I was on a class and I was watching everything through the cameras.
Okay. And on the occasions that the police came, did you determine whether there was any of this loud amplified music that's been complained about?
No. Again, as some of the officers testified, we invited them in. They did inspect the property and everything that could cause loud music, and no loud music was playing. It wasn't even audible where I was at because I was in a class and I can't have loud noise on the class.
And then on the September date, September 17th, were you present at the establishment then?
September 17th.
Of 2021.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to recall that exact date. Trying to recall that exact date. I should have been, but I can't tell you because my schedule changes because I work 18-hour shifts, and sometimes I need to take a look at the cameras to see if I was present that day.
Okay. If I could just stop for a minute and address the chairman, just to have a point of clarification, if that's okay.
Yes.
So, Madam Chairman, I'll do however you want to proceed, but the way I think Mr. Signator had indicated it's worked in the past, and I've seen it work in the past, is that they do each violation, they say whether they find sufficient cause to find a violation, and then decide what they're going to do about it, and then sometimes they let the licensee be heard in mitigation as to what they've done to correct it. So I didn't want to get into all that or overstep the bounds. Obviously, I think that's something he wants to talk about, but I don't necessarily think now would be the time to do that unless you said it would be appropriate for you to hear that kind of stuff right now. So that's why I'm just trying to not have a longer hearing than necessary till you vote or decide to do what you're going to do, whether that be tonight or on another night. So they just asked for clarification on that.
Okay, so I think I will defer to Attorney Days. As you know, this is a new role for me, so I would ask that she give me some.
Sure.
Yeah, I would think, Attorney Allen, that we'd only hear mitigation evidence if in fact they were found.
There was a violation.
Right.
Okay. Understood. All right, so Mr. Crespo?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions for you tonight because for right now, because I think what you might want to talk about is some things that you've done in mitigation.
No, not exactly. Not exactly. What I wanted to, if I'm allowed to, of course. first of all, I wanted to apologize to Miss Prouty because evidently this is costing her. I mean, none of us want to be here, but I honestly don't want to inconvenience anybody because what we're trying to do is trying to build up Springfield, not not destroy it from within. And we've been trying to assess everybody's complaint. We did assess all of them. I mean, even I even did all the math, which was kind of complicated. I'm an electrical and computer engineer, as of my background. I did the math, and not to obstruct Miss Powtry's testimony, but I mean, for vibrations to travel, for sound to travel that far.
If I can, Attorney Allen, I think that we should limit this to questions and answers.
I understand your position, Attorney Days, but this is a hearing and we're talking facts. So it would be wise to hear
You, Mr. Crespo, with all due respect, you have a lawyer here who I would suggest you would know the law and be familiar with how hearings go. And I would suggest to you that it's not appropriate to go or to talk to Mrs. Prouty directly and to communicate things that I would suggest to you fall out of the purview of what we
So let me just interject here. Mr. Crespo.
Yes, sir.
So I understand you're an electrical engineer, but let me just, have you made efforts through your counsel to speak to Miss Prouty?
We have tried, but to no avail. She has as she has done with the police, we can't get in contact with her because she is in a position that she doesn't want. I mean, we've tried to come to a resolution where both parties were to be satisfied, but since we can't have in contact, we have not been able to.
Okay. So, Derek, just for now, I think I wouldn't have any other questions for you regarding whether there's sufficient evidence or not to find violations, if you understand. But you may need to, the board might want to hear from you at a different night or later tonight, or if that's okay. All right. So I don't miss Days. Attorney Days may have some questions for you. I don't have anything further, Alicia.
Okay. I actually don't have any questions for Mr. Crespo.
Okay.
Attorney Days, may I say something?
Well, if it's limited to the scope of what we've talked about, yes, as I've said to Mr. Crespo. What I don't want to happen is to have the two of you go back and forth about your positions. But so with that in mind, Attorney Allen, if you would indulge her.
I don't have anything further, any other witnesses, but I understand what you're saying. So yeah, I'll defer to you, but obviously I think it's something that's not really pertinent. I would hope you would shut it off.
So Ms. Prouty, I'd hear from you.
I'll just keep it for another time.
Well, I mean, the time is now.
No,
So
I'm good,
I think
thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Do you not want to speak?
No, I'll save it. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Very good. I don't have anything further, Attorney Allen.
I don't either. I mean, unless the commissioners want to hear argument on the violations they've heard tonight. I'm just going to defer to you on the procedure. I know how it's worked in the past. It's a little bit different with this just because it's been dragged out so long and there is an issue with the motion that the clients want pressed. So, which I think is legitimate.
Excuse me, just a quick question. Are we dismissed as witnesses from Springfield Dispatch?
Yes.
You are. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I'm prepared to argue about whether there's sufficient evidence or not to sustain these violations. If you want to do that tonight, or you say you want to do that on another night. So.
What are the commissioners' pleasure? As you know, we cannot decide this case this evening until we discuss or rule on Attorney Allen's motion to recuse.
My recommendation is that we move it to another hearing. And I do have a question in regards to procedure.
Okay.
To questioning from the commissioners. At what point do we have input in reference to asking individuals, the witnesses questions?
You can ask questions. You could ask questions after the lawyers ask questions.
Oh, I don't think we knew that.
Okay. Was there anything in particular or a person in particular you wanted to ask questions to?
Well, I'd just like to ask a question to Mrs. Prouty. You indicated that you've been living there 54 years. And during your 54 years of living there, have you heard music coming from the establishment from other businesses who have operated at that location?
At one point in the past, when it was, I believe, Salvatore's, they had a wedding one time and we actually went up and spoke to them, asked them to turn it down. They did it. It was never another issue.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
I don't have any.
I don't have any either.
Okay.
Now we have another officer here who I don't believe has spoken. Cian's iPad. And who are you, officer?
My name is Officer Cian Simpson.
So he's relative to a violation that you weren't going forward on. So, so that's my fault. For some reason, Alicia, I can't see everybody on my Zoom screen. Otherwise, I would have certainly told you that.
Okay.
And I found out about this, some of it, when I logged on. So I would ask that the officer remain under, just if the subpoena, we don't want to pay again, it's continuing duty to appear, that if we're going forward on more of these violations, that you allow him to appear at whatever the next date's going to be.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Yeah, that'll be fine.
So we apologize, officer, that you were waiting.
Problem.
If I'm reading this correctly, it says October 3rd for Officer Cian.
Right, and I was told today or a little while ago that for now you're not going forward. One officer has COVID. One of the officers on this violation has COVID, so he was involved with that. But however you want to proceed, Madam Chairman.
Well, I think our apologies to Officer Cian for keeping you here this long. Obviously, you're not going to be on for tonight. I think it will be for the next time that we hear the October violations.
Okay.
Unless you want to take it out of order, I'll defer to Alicia rather than make him come back, but that's up to obviously the board.
No, Sean, we'll have him come back.
Okay.
Well, our apologies again, Officer Cian. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. You as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so consistent with Attorney Allen, I would suggest the following, that we table this matter, and I believe Commissioner Cade also expressed this, that we continue this matter until our next hearing, which would be on March 9th. And in the interim, we would need to have the commissioners discuss and rule on the motion to recuse.
All right, so one thing is I have an issue with the month of March. And secondly, I don't know if they want to hear argument while it's all fresh. whether it's been sustained or not, but I'll obviously defer to you. Just,
Well, I'll defer to the commission for that.
I just,
What's your position? Would you like to hear arguments tonight while it's fresh in your minds, or?
How does the rest of the board feel? Commissioners?
Let's hear the argument. Let's go forward and hear the arguments, and then we can whatever date or then convene on Commissioner Peters' situation. This has been dragging on a little bit too long. I'm getting old. I'm trying to enjoy my retirement years. This is not helping because this is continued getting prolonged, keep going. We gotta finalize this thing sooner or later. Just my thoughts. I'm sorry, but it's just getting a little bit too long here on this matter. So we need to conclude this as soon as possible.
Commissioners, do we agree with Commissioner Ramirez?
I don't. Other commissioners might.
I agree. It has been going on for quite a while, and now there's a problem for the month of March. I mean, how long is it going to go on for?
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and hear it.
Attorney Al?
sure, I'll be brief because you've heard from the witnesses. So what's before you is a violation for August 14th and 15th of 2021. I would suggest to you the evidence presented to you to the commission tonight through the witnesses is not sufficient to sustain the burden. The most troubling thing I had when I saw this notice of violation is they notice a violation and they start saying right in the notice, officers didn't observe any loud or rowdy noise. And then they attach all these narratives where the police officers go and they don't substantiate that which the city has put forward as a violation. Now, clearly there's two parties here. I don't think there's a lot of animosity, but everybody has their side. The establishment feels they haven't. The complaining witness feels they have. I would suggest you might have their own individual biases, but then you have the police officers who I suggest you are neutral. They don't have a stake in it. They're going out there. They're doing their job. Sometimes they're trying to talk to the complaining witnesses. You heard at least from 3 witnesses tonight. People refuse to talk to them after they go there. I think Attorney Days' own questioning revealed to you that not only they were going to the front of the establishment, but the rear of the establishment, and they weren't hearing any noise. They actually were at Miss Prudy's house. I asked one of the officers, did you feel the couch vibrating, the furniture vibrating? No. What did you do next? I then went to the establishment. I didn't see it. So what's before the board tonight, and I echo, I hear the frustration from the last 2 commissioners. This has been going on. We want to resolve it, but really what you're required to do is what was the evidence on the 3 violations that are before you, and was it sufficient to sustain it? But the totality of the circumstances here, the totality of the evidence does not sustain these violations. If you credit and you believe the Springfield Police Department, they say it just didn't occur. They responded. Miss Prudy, clearly there's a beef. She continues to call, as you know. You obviously can take notice of that. Sometimes she wants to cooperate. Sometimes she doesn't want to cooperate. The most frustrating thing here, even along the lines of what the last 2 commissioners said, is she doesn't even want to meet. She doesn't even want to meet to try and resolve this issue, to prevent her from calling. It was understood if she didn't want to meet with the establishment, she could have met with the establishment's representatives, and she's just refusing to do that now, saying, well, it's too late. I don't want to do that. It's never too late. That's what we're here for. I think you might have heard Mr. Crespo echo to you. It's just not about bringing Springfield down. It's about trying to be positive. But based upon the evidence that's before you, it's not sufficient. There's no recordings. There's not even written notations of the times, the multiple times these officers go. They don't substantiate noise on August 14th, 15th, or September 17th, which is what was before the board. And based upon the evidence before the board, in the record here, even for a reviewing agency to look at, I would suggest to you the evidence is insufficient. The police are neutral, the police are believable, the police don't have a stake in it. And I think you also consider what's the management doing when the police go there? They're cooperative, they're respectful towards the Springfield Police Department. Every officer said that, and it wasn't beaten out of them. They appear to say it with enthusiasm, like they like the owners there. They interact with these people daily. I think that's a factor you can consider when you look at these three occasions as to what's going on. You hear this all the time. You get to an establishment, the manager's playing cute, they're not being upfront, they're not being truthful, they're jerking the police around. You hear this all the time. That's not what you heard tonight regarding these people that are struggling with this business. And based upon these three violations, in any event, I don't think the burden's been sustained. And I would suggest you that you have to just take the evidence on these three violations, even though you are fatigued from it. And you say there's other violations, but that's really not appropriate to consider when you look at the individual things before you. They brought three violations, and I would suggest you, based upon the evidence, that they have not been sustained, and we would ask you not to sustain them. I wouldn't have anything further.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Allen. Well, it boils down to this. There were officers who went there on different occasions at different times, but they weren't there all night. Miss Prouty was there all night, though. And what she did I would suggest that the evidence would suggest that you heard credible evidence from Mrs. Prouty that there's noise that comes from that establishment to the point of where she can hear it, it's audible when the air conditioner is on, it shakes her sofa. And I would suggest to you that she's been a resident there for 54 years, and you heard her testify to the fact that there's been noise there before. However, they were able to quell the noise on a particular occasion, and it didn't happen again. Now, let's talk about the officers just briefly. Yes, they went. They didn't hear noise with respect to the 14th and the 15th. And I would just ask that you consider that on the 15th, the dispatch came in at approximately 9:37, and officers didn't arrive there until 12:05, which almost was 2.5 hours later. So it's fair to say, I would suggest that the inference could be that, in fact, there was no noise at 12:05, but there was noise at the time that she made her complaint. 2.5 hours later, I would suggest that perhaps there was no noise at that particular point. But 2.5 hours is a substantial time from a time of a call to the time that officers arrived in their observations. Now, with respect to the September 17th complaint, and what's before you there is really the license being restricted to 11 o'clock. After 11 o'clock, there should be no one on the patio. You heard the officer testify that he was there at about, I believe, 11:12, and there were individuals outside that were having dinner and still present on the patio. And I would suggest to you that that would be a violation. Now, and lastly, what I want to talk about is the noise. There was a lot of attention paid to the fact of the amplification of noise. Well, as communicated by Officer Delamarta, there doesn't have to be amplification for it to be in violation, right? It's 50 feet if it's amplified, and it's 100 feet if it's not amplified. I would suggest that you heard the credible testimony of Mrs. Prouty, who states that she lives over 100 feet away from the licensed establishment and was able to hear, meaning audible noise. And that is what is a violation of the ordinance, if in fact it's audible from more than 100 feet or 50 feet, depending on whether or not it's amplified or not. And based on the evidence that was presented, I would ask that you find the violations that are before you this evening. Unmute.
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry. Just for the record, I just want to make sure it's clear that you referenced, I think you're referring to the cop says at 11:10. That is not a violation before the board. Just in case this has to be reviewed. You had indicated that in itself was enough to find a violation, but that's not, the violation before the board was this noise, not a violation that people were on the patio past 11. I don't know if that's what you meant by it, but just so the record is clear, I didn't see the patio, the 11:10 thing on the patio as a violation, just that it was noise. It was this amplified noise. And I think you just inferred to the board that because it was after 11 that was enough to find a violation, but that's not what was noticed to the licensee as a notice of violation. It was noise.
Well, I'd have to see the notice of violation because clearly on here, and actually I think it was the reverse, that the noise ordinance, the commission decided not to go forward on previous to the issuance of the violations, but the violation of the license restriction of patrons on patio after 11 is what the commission agreed to go forward on. So we can review your letters, Attorney Allen, and we can revisit that since we're coming back again.
Well, okay, but the hearing was closed, and I have the notice in front of me. It doesn't say that, so we can.
What do you?
So I have the noise. It was a noise. Amplified noise was the violation for September 17th and 19th.
Right. Did you just put up the narrative though? Is that what you said?
Noise complaints. It wasn't a violation of the entertainment license.
You have 2 pages. You have 2 pages of that written September 28th.
September 28th. Yeah.
Okay. So look at the second page. Next to the last paragraph. Last sentence of the last paragraph.
Yeah, but what I have do you have the notice in front of you?
I don't.
Okay, so I think we need to look at the notice.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, we'll take a look at the notice. Okay, so with that being said, Madam Chairperson, I would ask that we close the hearing, and I just want to tell you all that I want to make special mention of my mother tonight because we are in Boston because she has to come for some care every few weeks, and she has been indulging me for the last 3 hours for a hearing I told her was going to take about an hour. So thank you.
Uh-oh.
Thank you. We can get dinner now.
That's right.
Sorry.
Yep.
So it's safe to say that right now I can make a motion to table the matter until the March meeting.
Well,
March
Attorney
9th.
Allen, I'm sorry, Madam Chairperson. So Attorney Allen, tell me about your limitations in March.
My limitations in March is the Nathan Bills trial is starting, and that's going to go for 3 weeks. But I wanted to just talk to you either on or off the record to see if I could get Attorney Kelly to stand in at the next meeting, but I just need to see what that would focus on, to see if he could cover that for me, because
Sure.
I'm listening to what the commissioners said. They're fatigued from it, they're tired of it, but I think if it's not going to be this full-blown evidentiary hearing, if we're coming back to see what the findings will be and who will rule on it, then it would just be mitigation or no. So I don't know if that's what you're thinking. So I wasn't just trying to say, oh, we'll put it on to the next one, but I could work with you to try and see if you could cover it for me.
Okay, why don't we do that? Why don't we put it on for the 9th tentatively, and hopefully Attorney Kelly can stand in for you.
Okay. Do commissioners agree?
Agree. Yeah.
Attorney Allen, just and not to belabor the point, but the only issue I think that we would have is we've got to deal with the motion to recuse, and I think that you would need to be present for that. So let's
right.
You know.
So can we just talk about it? Because I know that's not something Attorney Kelly's going to want to deal with because he is often in front of the board. I just know he's not going to want to deal with that issue.
Right.
Okay. So if I could just, I understand it's going to be put on for March 9th, but if I could just maybe communicate with you over the next couple of days.
Okay, yeah,
Sorry.
that'll be fine. Okay.
Great. Thank
My
you.
You're welcome. Madam
Thank you.
Chairperson, my suggestion is that we table the violation, considering the hour, the violations until our next hearing. Officer Delamarta, are you okay with that?
I'm sorry, Alicia, can you repeat that?
Yeah, I was asking if for permission to table the violations until our next hearing, considering the hour.
Right. I mean, that's not up to me.
Well, you are diligent in terms of bringing them to us, so I just don't want to delay them any longer than we have to, but.
Yeah, I think it's too late for that. You know, whatever, I agree. I mean, obviously there's issues that have to be resolved, and if the decisions can't be made, then, you know, then we can't obviously move forward, and, you know, we should obviously decide ahead of time on the motion to recuse and then, you know, go from there.
Oh, I'm sorry, Officer Delamarta, I was referring to the new violations. You know how we go through our list of violations? The new ones, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry. I didn't realize we were at that point. Oh, no, I don't.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No,
I
no,
didn't realize we were already at that point. I thought we were still discussing this.
No, well, that's what we've been discussing the last hour and a half, but no.
It's a long day.
We're past that.
It's a long day.
Yeah.
Attorney
it
Days,
is a long day.
am I all set, Attorney Days?
You are,
I didn't want
Attorney
to,
Allen.
right. You need to spend some money on your mother tonight. She better get a good dinner.
She
Having to
will.
listen to
Absolutely.
all this.
I'll send the bill to all you guys. No, I'm only kidding.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, good night.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Okay, so, yeah, I'm sorry, Commissioner Ramirez.
No, I was gonna say, are we concluding or it's up to what's going on? I'm with it. I'm being mindful to yourself and your mother.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I do apologize for my outburst earlier, but it just is dragging on, and I think we need to conclude this as soon as possible.
We agree. I think we all agree with you. So, for the sake of Attorney Days' mom, I want to make a motion that we continue the violations for the March 9th meeting. Do I hear
Or
a
I guess
second?
an alternative, Madam Chairperson, if I could just be excused, if you guys want to continue going, I mean, you can, but.
I think that we're equally as tired. I think we want the day to be over.
Yes, I agree.
Unlike
Does that mean
John,
we,
we're not always tired.
There is a second. I heard a second somewhere.
Can I ask one question? Sorry, you buy your mom an extra dessert. Panache, did we finish with Panache, the change of manager?
No.
Because he wasn't on this agenda, and I didn't want it to fall between the cracks.
Yeah, no, we didn't put it on the agenda because the ladies have not been able to make contact and.
Oh, all right.
Make sure the tip certification has been done.
Okay.
So just for clarity, our next hearing, we will have double violations. We would just go through all the violations for.
Yes, we
That's
will have
correct.
double violations perhaps, but I think our new method of going through them will not have us spending, a long time on them.
All right.
Just make sure that you get them, before, so you can take a look at them. Okay?
All right.
So there is a second to continue the meetings, the violations for next meeting. I'm not sure who second the motion. Was it you, Peter? Okay, attorney, wow. Commissioner Kay.
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Siciliano.
Yep.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Yes.
Commissioner Espinosa, yes. And with that being said, we'll also address old business. The Malecon, I'd like to continue that also to our March 9th.
I'm
You're
sorry.
shaking your head now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Madam Chairperson. Yeah, we can't delay that. I think we've got to, so basically with Malecon, I don't know if you guys got the decision, and I'll go quickly. Thank you, Mother. The Malecon, the commission's decision to revoke their license was reversed by the ABCC. And their directive, it was to remand it back to the license commission, but that no further violations, no further penalty should be afforded to Malecon. So in essence, what that means is that their license has to be given back to them. Now, with that being said, there were a number of additional violations that Malecon had that we didn't hear. You guys continued it generally because their license had been revoked. So it was really kind of without, any sort of, it was moot, basically, since they were revoked. But those violations are still pending, which could be, brought back up. However, with respect to the revocation, their license has to be granted back to them.
Immediately, correct?
Correct. Without further ado, so you need to motion, I mean, you guys could discuss it, but in essence, that is the directive of the ABCC.
And then we will schedule violation hearings for their pending violations.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
And you guys were all provided with the decision.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. And so basically they flipped it, and I thought it was interesting. I was telling one of you, or maybe a couple of you, that I thought it was interesting. I might have been talking to Barry, but I thought it was interesting that they said that the gun was seen, but it was in his right hand, and maybe he got in without security being able to see it. So so they did see the video, and they saw basically what we saw, which was, I would suggest, it was kind of the wild, wild west out there that day, but it's been reversed, and as such, they're entitled to the license back.
So how do we go forward from here? What do we motion to reinstate their license?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, are they wiped up a clean slate now? We can't use their previous violations with what we are going to encounter moving forward?
You cannot, not with respect to the revocation. I can't remember, but Malecon had some additional violations, not counting that one, right?
Yes. That was their fifth.
Okay.
So that was their fifth. And I mean, I'm assuming from reading the ABCC thing, the only one that you couldn't use is that one.
That's correct.
I mean, the other ones, quite a few of them, they stipulated to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other four could still be used.
Okay.
So
I have a
I'm sorry,
question
Peter.
that we received a complaint from Mattoon Street residents to both commission and the mayor's office, and the mayor's office sent it to us to review, but the complaint was mainly about the music and entertainment. So I'm not sure what we do with that. Alicia, do we do anything with that?
I don't think we can, Peter. I don't think at this point we can. I mean, because, it spoke to, and I have the letter here, but it spoke to, that they've been a problem, and the music and the this and the that. But, of course, the focus of this particular violation is what they said, they've reversed. So I don't think there's anything that we can do with respect to putting limitations or anything additional until such time that they come before us on additional violations.
Well, their whole complaint letter focused on entertainment, music, my amplified music. So That's not.
So we
our-
could have it, we could have an entertainment hearing.
So one of the violation reports that got reviewed but never heard because the license was revoked, one of them had to do with the similar to Delicious. It was a violation of the city noise ordinance, but it was never heard. And so that one is pending, and we did request an entertainment hearing, but obviously, like Attorney Day said, they were never scheduled because the licensee had already had their license revoked. So
Okay.
those, I believe, are still pending. The board did vote to send them to hearing. They just never made it that far.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So who would like to make the motion to restore to Malacone's license? Don't all
Who would,
speak at
who
once.
would, who would, who would like to make that
Just kidding.
motion? No one wants to make that motion?
We have to reinstate it, in my understanding, if corrected. So I'll make the motion to reinstate the license. We have to do it. ABC is asking us to reinstate the license, so we can do that. So I motion to reinstate the license to Mattoon. Is that the proper punctuation of the name? I'm not sure.
Malacon.
Malacon.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I didn't hear it louder.
Second.
I think that was Andrew. Okay, Commissioner Cade. Commissioner Cade?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Singapore?
Begrudgingly, yes.
Commissioner Siciliano?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Yes.
Commissioner Espinosa? Yes.
Very
All
good.
right.
I know that was painful, but a month. So can I then make a motion that we end the meeting at 8:11 p.m.? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, well, everyone have a good night.
Roll call.
Thank you.
Oh,
Roll
roll call.
Yes.
Yes, for Commissioner Cade, Commissioner Singapore,
With dinner with mom, yes.
Commissioner Siciliano,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Yes.
Commissioner Espinosa, yes. I think we all owe mom a dinner.